Being a real estate agent, your goal is to close as many deals as possible. Obviously, you're trying to service as many clients as possible, but what often ends up happening is becomes very, very difficult to do. And probably what you're already doing is spending money on ads that are getting you somewhat good results, maybe poor results, who knows? You're networking, you're doing all kinds of stuff to get leads. But I'm going to show you in this little info diagram where you're having a problem and how you can double your leads and your customer conversions without really having to spend too much more money on advertising. Now, this is a nice info diagram that I was able to get from Keep, that I've done tons of trainings with and learned a ton from. And this is essentially a customer journey. This is what we're going to call it. And in this video, I'm going to go over step by step on how a customer comes into your database all the way to the end, where you're making mistakes and losing customers, and how you can do things to improve what you're already doing that you didn't know was already there in your business, most likely. So before we start, I just want to reiterate that this is a customer journey every single business has, whether they know it or not. Doesn't matter what industry, what business you're in, what you do. If you're in business and you're selling products and you're giving services, your customers are going through this entire service process with or without you. And the goal as business owners and real estate agents is to make sure that your customers are having the most streamlined, most important, impactful customer journey that you can possibly give. And we're going to start by where a customer comes from, all the way to what happens at the end of your customer after they close deal with you and what's next for them. As you can see here, we have visitor, lead, customer, fan. We want to bring through our traffic. We want to bring them through each one. We want to make sure that we minimize the amount of drop-off that's happening here between each step of the way. Now, oftentimes what happens, we have our traffic sources here. This can be your social media. It could be your Facebook ads. It could be any paid SEOs, blogs, anywhere that you get leads from that you're paying for, most likely your website, things like that, of that nature. And that's what usually happens, okay? That's where they start off, the journey starts, and we get a visitor comes onto your website. Now, a visitor comes from your website, but a lot of them might not embark into the next phase of that. They might just visit your website, and then after that, nothing else happens, and they're falling into the trash can, never to be seen again, missed opportunity there. Now, some of them are going to pass through, and they'll be like, oh, you know what? I want to do business with Jordan, for example. He seems pretty good, seems pretty cool, and I think he's got some services that I want him to sell my house. So they're going to opt into the lead part of this sequence. But we still got to get them to a paying customer, right? This is just where they pique their interest. They're interested in whatever services we have to offer. Now we got to get them to a paid customer. But what oftentimes ends up happening is there's another drop-off point here where we lose them to the trash can. And the reason this is happening is just because they got to make this jump here, this little bridge to the next phase. And that's where a lot of real estate agents are having problems. Because if you don't understand not only these 4 phases, there's actually a framework that we use, and Keep is very, very amazing at showing you how to do this, is that we use these frameworks to bridge these 2 phases together, so it makes it easier for the client to walk across and not be falling into the trash here. Next part of this is the customer experience, the customer journey. They probably purchased something from you after they became lead. They purchased something from you. And most businesses and most real estate agents realize at this point, they're like, fantastic, that was great. We closed the deal, we did a transaction, awesome. But there's another part to this whole process where they let them fall into the garbage. And this is another missed opportunity, okay? We want to turn them into repeat referrals, reviews. This is the goal. After they become a customer, we can turn them into raving fans. And the way we do this, it's a process and a framework, but the way we want to do this is we have to have services and automations in place and things that we can up our game with that will serve them afterwards in their future lives and ours as well. So let me just break this down into numbers so that it's easier for you guys to kind of get a sense of what we're doing. Let's just say you get traffic sources from, let's say, Facebook ads. And Facebook brings you 1,000 visitors to your website. Now you have 1,000 visitors, and out of those 1,000 visitors, probably 10% are going to make it to the next part. So that means 100 are turning into leads, okay? So that means you lost 900 people right into the trash. That's a lot of people, right? That you paid for to get to here that didn't make it to the lead part. But for all things being equal, let's say 100 leads is pretty good and you're like feeling good about yourself. You got a lot of clients coming in. Great. Now you need to close these customers. They need to pull out their credit cards and pay you for your service. And they need to be willing to sign you on as a real estate agent and say, hey, I want you to be my agent, sell my property, or I want you to help me buy my dream home. But again, we didn't bridge the gap here and they fall into the trash. And we have 10 customers out of the 100. And out of the 10 here, we forgot to follow up with them after and set in place. We wanted to impress them and really wow them with all of the experience. What did we do to make them, leave with what a great feeling of working with Jordan as a real estate agent? This is how we want to leave them. But what ends up happening, again, 10% of those, we lose 9 to the garbage. One of them becomes a fan. And we want to, after we finish dealing with the customer here, we're trying to go and be like, let's double that. Let's get some more clients in. Now, let me ask you to think about this for a second. How, in your mind, if you wanted to double what you're doing, so you wanted to turn this 10 customer into 20 customers, so increase to 20, how would you go about doing that? I'll give you 2 seconds to think about it. You're probably thinking, I'm going to go and I'm going to put more dollars into traffic. If I can double the amount of visitors to my site, I could double the amount of leads, I could double the amount of customers. But that's costing you a ton of money. You have to go and spend more money on ads. You got to spend more money on SEO. And you got to do a lot of stuff that you already have here, right? It's already there. And I'm going to show you. What you're not doing is you're not implementing the right systems in each gap. And each gap has a different system that you've got to put so that the customers don't fall off. You have 1,000 clients here that are visiting you from your Facebook dollars. That's fantastic. But we want to turn 200 of them into leads instead of letting 900 go into the garbage. This is how we're going to increase the amount of customers we have with the same amount of ad spend. And the way that you do that is when a visitor visits your website, you have to make something awesome, okay, to turn them into a lead. You got to make something awesome for them to download. You got to give them a PDF. You got to give them a mini course. You got to give them something of value in exchange for their email address so they don't leave their site without giving you something. You don't give them something in exchange, okay? So if you implement something, you create something of value for them, you will increase the amount of visitors that opt into your lead. So this is where a good lead magnet comes into play. Sorry for my writing, but you want to have a good lead magnet there. And then let's just say now this turns into 200, right? So you got 200 leads. You're like, wow, this is great. I didn't have to spend any more dollars on ads, keep the same budget, but I've increased the amount of leads twofold. The next part, we got a bridge here, guys, is from lead to customer. And did you know that a lot of people say it's about, I think they said 65 to 70% of people said that when they stopped engaging with a brand, it's not because a brand did anything wrong. It's because there was no actual follow-up with them. So it was indifference that made them choose their competitor. If you just think about how crazy that is, it wasn't a differentiating factor. It was just a simple fact that they weren't top of mind and they didn't follow up with them. So they just picked John instead of me just because I wasn't there for them to pick. That's it, guys. It's crazy how much money is being lost and clients that could be served just by following up with somebody. And this is where the follow-up becomes important. Now, you have to have a system in place here to make sure that you're following up regularly and you're giving them value. We're not following up with people and being like, hey, buy my product, buy my product. We don't want them. Who here thinks that feels good when somebody asks you to buy their product? Doesn't matter what it is. When you walk into a store, for example, you walk in and the guy comes to you or the girl comes to you right away and she's like, hi, how can I help you? What are you looking for today? Can I help you get anything? You're like, give me a second. I just walked into the store and it just feels like you're pressuring me to buy something when I'm not sure if I even want to do so, right? So the same goes in any business. And oftentimes what happens with real estate agents is they get that commission breath, right? You're there trying to make the sale and people can sense that when you're trying to, push that sale on them and you're not being authentic with them. So in order to avoid all this, you got to make sure that you're following up with them and you're engaging with them with value, okay? And the way that you do this is you have to automate it so you don't forget and you put value emails and nurture campaigns in place so that you can stay having a relationship with the customer before they buy, right? This is so that when they are ready to sign you on as a customer or as a client, for example, and they want to say, hey, Susan, I want you to be my real estate agent, but I might not have been ready to buy today or sell my house today because I have things, life is happening, I'm getting married or kids on the way, but I will be in, say, 8 months from now. And I want to make sure that Susan, as a real estate agent, is in contact with me for 8 months straight so that when it's time for me to buy or sell that building, I'm going to be like, I've got this great agent that's been kind of communicating with me often and gives me a ton of great value. And I know she knows what she's talking about. I'm going to give her a call because you're top of mind and you continuously were on the follow-up. Not pushy, but following up. And that will make a drastic difference in the amount of conversions that you're making, okay? Now, lastly, super powerful. This one I always recommend to people. I'm like, don't forget about this one because it's huge. Now that you made the sale, everybody is happy. You got a payday and then you just go about your business. Thank you so much, Susan, for all your hard work and your dedication. And I'm happy you got the home that you wanted and hugs and kisses and a nice bottle of wine. And then you're gone, right? Wrong. You need to make sure that it's better than everyone else in the industry. You got to be wowing your clients. You got to be creative in this aspect, okay? Think about something. Spend time and say, what can I do that would be so different from everybody else that instead of giving a bottle of champagne or a bottle of wine or whatever at closing, what can I do that would leave my clients feeling like, oh my God, that was amazing. I can't believe that you would have done something like this. And if you can implement that into this part of your business, you're going to get raving fans. And guess what? Now that 9 that dropped into the basket ends up being 10. Everyone's a fan. Either if you have other if you're an investor or people want to buy other houses, well, guess what? You're hitting off that repeat. They're going to come back and use you as an agent. You're getting referrals from them. You're going to say, hey, do you know anybody else who would be interested in selling their house or buying, whatever the case may be? You're going to get a referral. Reviews. They're going to check mark and say, hey, this was a great person to work with. It was fantastic. They're going to put that on, leave that on your website. And what happens is this becomes another amount of sales. And I can't tell you the number because if you have 10 people, who knows if they do all these, make them hit all these 3 check marks, your customers can double, triple. It's pretty much endless without having to spend more money on ads, right? That's the key. How to be efficient, spend the same amount of money, but get more clients with what you're doing right now. And this is what I have in my program. I actually show this in my coaching program, and we go into depth of how to follow up properly, all the systems to put it in place, and all the marketing, the copy. And this is what I do in my business to help real estate agents grow theirs. So if you guys like this and you'd like to have a little talk, we could go about it, how it's going in your business, encourage you to book a consultation. It's absolutely free. Get on a call for 30 minutes and we'll see where you might be having problems. And that's it. I can help show you where you're having an issue. 30 minutes, absolutely free. And if you liked it, book the call and like the video.